Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a great week. I know that we are having tons of fun over in the boot camp. We have so many awesome things coming up, including our 90-day sprint challenge. Most of you have probably heard about that. We started it 2 years ago, actually before COVID. Like we didn't even know COVID was happening. And I just got with some of my favorites in the boot camp and I'm like, hey, let's do like a competition. And it was so fun. It's free to all the boot camp members, and we all get on teams. And I set out certain points that everyone can get on things that are really easy to forget to do on a consistent basis in our practice, like ask for referrals and leverage testimonials, and just like those things that really just build a really strong and solid chiropractic business. And oh my gosh, we've all had so much fun. And Dr. K, who's here with me today, was a coach last year, and then she is a coach again this year as well, is going to be speaking at our pediatric boot camp in February 24th through the 26th at Sherman College of Chiropractic. And I've asked her to join me because this woman is so brilliant, like way beyond her years, just like on the planet, and way beyond her years of experience. And one of the things that I have observed, like Dr. K joined the boot camp while she right after she graduated and opened her first practice. And I've always loved how she's able to just sit in her thinking and sit in her emotions, and just be there and hold space for people. And so as you get to know her, you'll be astonished. So Dr. K, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. That was so sweet of you. Thank you for saying all of that. I love that. And I'm so happy to be here. As always, it's been a while since we've done one of these.
I know, right? It's been crazy. And for all of you who are like husband-wife teams, whether like you're practicing together, or we have boot campers who are husband-wife teams and they practice separately. Maybe one of you is practicing and one of you is in school. Like, just do a little bit of a shout out. Dr. K and her husband, Dr. Anthony, practiced together. And we were just talking about just all the transformations that we've seen in both of their lives over this past year has been incredible. And so next year, Pediatric Boot Camp 2023, Dr. K and Dr. Anthony, I've actually asked them to speak as a chiropractic couple, because let's face it, working with your spouse and sleeping with your spouse and doing life with your spouse and just being together all of the time has all kinds of interesting ups and downs and wiggles. So when you come to Peds Boot Camp 2023, you'll be able to really just lean into what are things that they're doing to make it work so well. So Kay, let's just let's give some background as
Yeah.
to what makes you such an authority in chiropractic and pregnancy.
Well, I think one would be my experience with both of my pregnancies and both of my birth experiences that catapulted me into practice, because I was pregnant with my son when I opened my practice. And I was doing mobile care, and I realized that I may or may not want to actually have a practice when after I had him. But this was during the pregnancy phase. And after I had him and free birthed him and birthed him in full autonomy, my body and my entire being was like, full body, yes, I need to do this. Like, I didn't think I was going to have this like zeal for life and to serve the pregnant population, in the pediatric population that my office specializes in. And then it just happened, and I was on fire. I mean, how I birthed is how I ran my practice. And then we found an office, or I found an office by myself, a small office, started off with a very low overhead, 500 square feet. Within 6 months, I needed to be in a bigger building. I never took a business loan. I just paid for cash, always paid myself first, and then always put the rest back into the business. And now we have a 3,600 square foot office that we lease. We have majority of it actually covered by having other referral partners in it with us. So we pretty much pay just as much as I paid in my 500 square foot office now. We have 3,600 square feet. to have all kinds of exciting events and different things in. And we also will be purchasing the building at the end of 2025 when our lease is up for the entire building. So it has been a whirlwind of every single year something changing, and definitely when life happens, it'll hit you, and it's definitely hit us really hard. But it's just been through my experience that I've leaned in, and being a part of the boot camp has been the biggest integral part of that. I always tell everybody I would not be where I'm at without Dr. Barb, without the boot camp, and definitely the systems and support of all the primarily women in the group, although there are some men, lots of men now, especially in the boot camp, including my husband and other spousal practices. But yeah, it's been a really wild ride, and the boot camp catapulted me there. There's no doubt I would not be where I'm at without the boot camp.
So let's and thank you for that. And as you said, there's been like something different every year. I'm like, or like 10 things different every year for you guys. And share with me this, one of the things that I've really loved observing in you and Anthony is, and I'll preface it with this story. This summer, Dr. Sarah Perry, who's in the boot camp, was up here for my deep dive mastermind, and she stayed a little bit later. And we decided to go whitewater rafting a few hours from here, like class 4 rapids for part of it. So class 5 is like the biggest. So it was like, like pretty serious stuff. And one of the things that they really emphasized was if you fall out of the raft, don't try to stand up. Now that seems silly, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm in the water. Why wouldn't I stand up? Well, if you think about it, here's this heavy current, right? And you as a human being try to stand up, and this current is going to knock you down, and then you will be out of control, right? Like when you try to go against the current, you will be out of control and possibly suffer damage, suffer harm. And instead they said, like, sit down, put your feet up, and the current will guide you to safety and will pick you up. Like, you will be okay. This isn't our first rodeo. And so often I see that when troubles come in life, if we try to fight them like that current, right? Like we get all up in our thinking of like, poor me, and this shouldn't happen, and that person is wrong, and the economy this, and boo hoo 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 hoo. It's like standing up in that current, and we just get beat down and beat down and beat down. And one of the things that I've seen you and Anthony really do is, like, when the troubles come, like, you sit back in that water, you throw up your feet, and you're going to glide to safety. And I can only imagine how important that was in free birthing your children, right? Like, to lean into the pain, to lean into the process. Can you describe just a little bit, like, maybe not only how you do that, but what's so good?
The good is, we were just talking about this. It's so funny they bring it up. It's like, why is the pattern or the flow of our life gone this way? Because we just take everything that comes to us, in a sense of like choosing it. We didn't choose free birth to like be perfect or like be this like big old fancy thing. Like I always tell everybody, like, free birth isn't like the perfect way to birth. It's just the way we choose to birth because we like to encompass all there is. So I always talk in my office, a big conversation we have with everybody is radical self-responsibility, and not putting other people at blame. And so when you're radically self-responsible for what you're doing in your life, you have nobody to look at in the mirror except for yourself. And so that's why we chose to birth that way, because when we see, of course, every single day in this society we live in, women being abused in the system throughout the birth system, women being abused in the medical system, or just most people in Western medicine not getting informed consent and those options of free choice that they should have as a birthright. And so when we have these conversations with people, it's always gone, well, you free birth, so you did this. And I've shifted to be like, yes, I did that, but this is why I did that. Because when you are in self-control and you have nobody else to say, okay, this is your fault. Okay, this is your fault. You did this to me. We just radically believe that everything happens for us. So my birth with my son was, probably like textbook. I would go through that every single day. It was radically transformational. And same thing, we free birthed my daughter, and my daughter's birth taught me so much. It was a fantastic birth. There were no complications. There were nothing, but the mental shift that happened, that we brought in the darkness, right? Like, we are open to the dark side of things. It's not always sunshines, roses, and puppies. It can be sometimes heavy and hurtful and painful and upsetting. And with me having an injury going into birth, not being able to walk for 12 weeks before I birthed my daughter, and having all that heavy emotion that I was sitting through. And I'll be honest, there was a time where I did pity me. I mean, it was hard leaving my practice and leaving that. But the birth was like the awaking moment. If I would have had that birth in the hospital, I could tell you I would have had postpartum depression. I'd be on SSRIs right now because I was already in a mental state that was not okay for someone to take advantage of me. So birthing my daughter carried those same heavy emotions, but I was at home, safe in my safe place, birthing again exactly as I knew how. It was super fast. It was very calm, but the emotions that were with it were very different. And so that's why we choose that in every aspect of our life, because we like to be not in control, but we like to be aware and fully present with what's going on. Because if you're leaving it up to somebody else, just like if you're leaving your practice up to somebody else to run and without even knowing what's going on or being in tune with, that system, you're leaving everything up to question. And so that's why we choose to birth the way we do. And we support several people who birth that way, several people who birth in the hospital. And we lead with the same concept. You have to be radically self-responsible no matter in what you're choosing. And there's ways to go about that.
And so Dr. K is speaking, and actually she is doing a workshop as part of the PEDS boot camp, which is happening at Sherman College of Chiropractic, February 24th through the 26th, 2022. We have applied for 14 CEs in select states. And, one of the things that we really pride ourselves on in the boot camp is that we're all in learning phase, right? All of us. And that, the boot camp isn't a just like sit there, keep your mouth shut, and, like classroom. It's roll up your sleeves and ask questions. And so can you share with everyone what will they walk away with from the hands-on that you're doing in your office for part of the PEDS boot camp?
Well, first of all, so much, but first and foremost, the why behind why the past 2 years has been going like this. I mean, we were just talking about this before we went live, is that it's not about just doing Webster anymore. It's not about just addressing the physical subluxation. We all know there's a psychosomatic component to this. We know there's a component to this that is the emotional subluxation, because we are energy and our bodies are storing things in our organ systems, in our different areas of our body, whether we're pregnant or not. But when we're pregnant, we have extra of that going on. And add the world to the way it is, we have moms that are swimming upstream already, and then you have the ways of the world and they're swimming upstream even more. And so in my office, we address the emotional subluxation far more than we even address the physical present subluxation. So this year has shifted. This past 2 years essentially has looked as us sitting in the office with women, no matter if they're birthing at home or in the hospital, and working through the emotional, stinking thinking type of thing, like what is going on in your mind that is keeping your body in this physiological state? Because I've seen so many breech presentations, but I'll be the first to tell you, you could adjust them and do all the breech protocols you want. You could do all the tension points, and we practice tonally and we do that. But it's not until I sit down with that mom and schedule a consultation with her and say, what is it? What's the emotion? What's the fear? What's going, what are you keep putting in front of yourself that's blocking this? Is it, your fear of not being able to go back to work? I've been there, like let's have a sister to sister conversation. And I could run through 5 scenarios that are at the top of my head right now. It always has to do with some fear-based emotion. It's either, okay, well, I'm actually supposed to stop working right now, but I own a business and it's scary for me to stop working. My body says I need to stop working because my baby's breech and my baby's telling me it's not safe for me to work, but I'm not listening to that. And so we always go back to mother's intuition, and we sit down and we have a 20, 30-minute conversation. We mirror each other. We release emotion. We hold space for one another. It always results in both of us crying and holding space for each other because we're sisters. And we walk out and she says, you know what? I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to take my maternity leave early. I'm going to shift. I'm going to bring in the partner that I thought that I was training. I'm going to give them benefit of the doubt to do that. And babies turn from breech. Although breech is a variation of normal, we see huge shifts in tension, pattern changes. Women that are fearful of birthing at home because their husband isn't on board with them. Anthony has had so many conversations, same type of thing, brother to brother, with these husbands in our office who are just like, I don't understand how birth works. And my wife wants to do this at home. That's scary for me. And so he goes, they have a meal together, they break it down, and they break down those walls of those emotions. And what do you know? the relationship shifts, their marriage shifts, baby's born at home beautifully, and they have a better experience. So, I mean, it's really not, I mean, yes, chiropractic is great. We all know that. The nervous system requires 100% function, but it also requires care and nurturing, especially when we're holding and storing emotions and everywhere. So that's the biggest thing I will be talking about in the hands-on portion of that, is how do we address that? Like, how do we, one, put our hands on people and give them what we need and educate them for the chiropractic side of things, but then two, have the groundedness and the confidence to look at them in the face and be like, there's something off with you. What's going on? Can we go in the other room and just break this down for a minute? I make a joke every time I go into the office on Tuesdays. There's always somebody waiting for me to say that to them. Always. It's like they come in only on Tuesdays and they're looking at me and I'm like, you know, Sarah, what's going on? Like, do you need a moment? And she's like, yes, thank you for asking that. And it's a 5-minute conversation. And so we've extended that more these past 2 years than we ever had in the beginning.
Yeah, that holding space. And one of the things I'm going to be talking about, and actually you guys can probably all catch it on an Instagram reel here shortly. I'm shooting reels today. The 4 kinds of learning, of listening, and the one that really honors the person you're talking to the most is quiet listening. It's that listening without agenda. It's that listening to just hold space. It's that listening to lean in. It's that listening without all of my dialogue going on in my mind. And really and truly, when we look at the power of innate intelligence, there, a woman and a man, I'm talking about a woman here because she's pregnant. A woman knows what to do if she just gets quiet. Mm-hmm. And so often there's like, I think even chiropractically, we can come in and try and do too much, but really holding space for that individual to get to their own space of no thought, to get to that space where innate intelligence, for crying out loud, I remembered to put oxygen in my lungs this morning. Like I didn't put that on my to-do list, and probably you didn't either. And all of you watching, like, did you remember to digest your food last night? Probably not. And yet innate intelligence is doing that all of the time. Well, innate intelligence has the same power when it comes to our thinking. We just haven't been taught that. Mm-hmm. Right? We've been taught very much an outside in approach versus an inside out approach. And I was on a mastermind with our friend Michael Neal, who wrote several books that, if you follow, any of you follow me very much, you know I'm a big fan of Michael Neal. And one of the guests he had was Dicken Bettinger. And he said this, and I love it. And he's not a chiropractor. The health of the helper is primary. The health of the helper, right? The health and well-being of us serving our practice members is primary. The health and well-being of mom serving her children is primary. The health and well-being of dad being there to preside and protect over his family is primary. And so for all of you at the Peds Boot Camp this year, you're going to see this as a theme of your health, your well-being is of primary importance. And you know what, I think it's such an overlooked success principle. And I just don't mean you're exercising and eating right. Like, there's so much more to health than exercising and eating right. Like, we don't just get to just check it off our list because we do those things. Like, your mental and emotional well-being, not only in the present, but like, what is your relationship to your past? What is your relationship to your thinking? What is your relationship to your spouse is infiltrating all aspects of your life. It's infiltrating your money. It's infiltrating your marriage. It's infiltrating, like this dog standing here desperately wanting his mom's attention. And so I love how you have framed your life and thus your business to be there in the most crucial places and spaces for people. So congratulations to you. And it doesn't just happen. Like, it's consciously created. Mm-hmm. So what are you seeing in the pregnant population right now, Kay, that we haven't seen before? And maybe even the Free Birth Society is talking about, like, you know, I was talking with Dr. Shrey Matusik, who's also speaking at Peds Boot Camp, and she's been in practice 20 plus years, delivered like 175,000 adjustments. And she's like, I've never in all of my experience seen newborns and babies with so many problems. And the underlying thing is a failure to thrive. Like, what is going on?
So that goes back to mom's situation. I mean, we have babies now born that were conceived during COVID year. I mean, we're already, I mean, how long are we been doing this now? Several, it feels like years, decades. But
Yes.
but we have moms who, I mean, on the nutrition side of things, or the preconception work side of things that I also partake in, is that we know mom's mental and physiological state 2 years prior to conception is imprinted in baby. And so, I mean, could you imagine like the, 2017, 2018, 2019, before we had babies that were born during COVID year? Like, we compared those babies to the babies being born now, and guess what? I had a baby born during both of those times, and I don't partake in that system, but I can tell you just the stressors of the environmental toxins. Both of my children are very different in terms of, like, my son has never had a rash, has never had anything in his lifetime. I haven't changed anything I've been doing. I've had done the exact same prep work as I did for her as I did for him, and she has all these like vaccine shedding rashes and all of this stuff, and her body is just like taking on candida and all. I mean, there's so much stuff going on that it's no wonder why these babies are sick and coming out. And I'm saying the same thing. It's because the vessels are stressed. These moms, their mental state isn't where it needs to be in terms of preconception based things. It's like we can't fix babies. We have to fix the moms like a year or two prior to them conceiving. And what I'm seeing is that these moms are not wanting to make natural decisions. They are. And that's the biggest thing that I've seen as a success out of all of this turmoil these past 2 years is women are birthing at home, but they're birthing at home with worse mental states than if they were birthing in the hospital, because they're feeling forced to do that because they're not given an informed consent. So we have so much more stress on mom, because I've had probably 10 moms in the past year who this is their second, third child, who would have never thought of having a baby at home, but have said to me, I feel like I have to have this baby at home because the baby will probably not live if I have it in the hospital. Like, think about the fear that goes into that, right? Because you're seeing all this stuff on the news and all of those things. So yes, moms are having great birth outcomes at home. Babies are born at home. Babies are born without interventions. Babies are born on time. They're not induced. All of these things that we've always talked about for years. But babies are born with horrible imprinted emotions for a mom because they live in a physiological stress environment and atmosphere until they come out, and then they join the rest of it with us. So I've definitely seen so many moms that are making great choices and choosing more natural things and decreasing the amount of toxic load, but you can only do that so much unless you're addressing the emotional component. We're forgetting about the mind. We're forgetting about that. Like, we're just focusing on the physical body, and I think, and I know we're much more than that.
And with all of that, it can feel like, okay, this is all great and fine and lovely for the two of you, and congratulations, the two of you have support and the two of you already have a successful business, but what about me? And I want to share with all of you, bring your yeah buts. Yeah, but what about this? Yeah, but what about that? Yeah, but to the boot camp, to the Peds boot camp. I promise you, I will help you see things in a new light. And the cool thing is once you have an insight, it will forever change the way you see things. Like, it just changes our perspective. And so often we get caught up in our personal thought matrix and we forget we always have freedom. We always have freedom. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't consequences when we exercise that freedom, but we always have freedom. Like, for instance, like, really and truly, none of us have to show up to work today. Oh, yes, I do, Barb, because if I don't, I can't pay my bills. I understand that. I totally get it. However, that doesn't wipe out the fact that you have freedom on what you do and you don't do. there are consequences. And sometimes when we look at those consequences, we have to make really big sweeping changes in our lives, knowing that that change is going to set us back on a trajectory of the life that we want to live and the life that we want to create for our family. I mean, you've had a radical transformation this year, and I'm excited for you to talk more about it at the Peds boot camp. I mean, one of the things that we believe in, for those of you who aren't in the Peds boot camp, is each of our stories can become a launch pad, a rocket for somebody else's greatness. Like hearing your story, hearing my story, hearing somebody else's story, then goes, oh my gosh, they're just like me. If she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. Just like Anthony having these precious times with these other dads, of just being able to look at it with, like with a clear lens. And then how that radically changes their entire life is really, really cool. So as we wrap this up, what final words do you want to share with those who are watching now or who will catch this later?
I always say this, and it's always a Dr. Barb ism. Just show up. Just show up and do it, and be uncomfortable and ask. And that's always what's the first thing Dr. Barb said to me when we had our interview, when I wasn't sure of how I wanted to do things. She was like, just try it. I mean, what's going to happen? Just try it. You always ask, and it can always be no, but just try it. You don't know if you don't know unless you try it. So show up to the boot camp. I remember every Peds boot camp that I've been to, and I remember Sheree's story very vividly. I remember Dr. Chelsea Rainey's story. I mean, and I know these women, but you're in the boot camp, you know these people, but you don't know them. And so when you come, even if you're an outsider and you're not in the boot camp, you meet people just like yourself. And it's very humbling to understand that even the most successful of practices have so much garbage going on and noise that we have to all settle. And we're all doing the same thing. I mean, on our social media pages, everything may look great, but we all have the same mind, heart, passion, compassion, struggles, hardships, and we all throw it in the boot camp. So it's like, hey, what are you struggling with today? How can I help you with that? And so we do that when we're in person too. It's like, here's how I made it through. And I want you to know that even though you've seen that I'm successful, there's been some crap that we've all went through. I mean, it does get heavy, but that doesn't mean that we have to carry it, right? Or that we have to shove it off to somebody else. We have to face it, and we have to look at it for ourselves, but not alone. And we have boot camp members to do that. So if you've never come to a boot camp event and you're stuck on, going to ICPA things or going to these, big groups that you've heard of before, and you're maybe apprehensive of going, oh, I don't know about this boot camp thing, show up, because it's very different. Like she said, you can yell and ask questions, and it's very, hey, I don't remember how to do that. Hey, can you tell me how to do that? Or, hey, I have a question about this. This might sound stupid, but I just have this question I've been dying to ask, and I don't feel comfortable, because we're all learning and we're all growing.
Yeah. And I love the community that we have cultivated in the boot camp. And as Mama Boot Camp, as leader, one of the biggest themes is always been no one's left behind, no one's left out. So if you're accustomed to going to events and you just kind of show up and no one notices you and you just slink out, that won't happen at our boot camp events. We all matter. And there's no hierarchy of oh, these people are better than these people. It just doesn't work like that. We're all in this game called life, and we're in it to win it together. And I promise you, there's no question, there's no shame in being I know I learned this in school and I don't remember. Great. Grab Dr. K, grab Dr. Danielle, grab Dr. Sheree, just grab them. They will love to shower you with help and support. And it really is, if you haven't been to an event before, literally, I'm telling you, also grab the VIP. And the reason I say that is there's just so much intimacy. And this year we're going downtown for dinner for the VIP dinner, and we have an hors d'oeuvre and cocktail hour before dinner. And Dr. Anchal's in charge of the music. And if you know Dr. Anchal, she loves having fun. So it's going to be a really, really great time. And then Dr. Shauna and Dr. Bailey are responsible for the photo booth this year, which all I can tell you guys, if you have a weak bladder like I do, wear something extra because the two of them are hilarious. And so it's just going to be tons of fun. We're going to learn. We're going to grow. We'll be bathed in one another's love and genuine friendship. Like, we don't do drama. We don't behind each other's back. There's just like, we just don't do that. That was something I really wanted to weed out. I know, being a 52-year-old woman, how that can get in a lot of female circles, and I just pledged to make sure that didn't come into our tribe. So, Dr. K, thank you so much, and I really appreciate your friendship. I deeply am proud of you and Anthony, and love your babies, and can't wait to see you guys. And thank you so much.
Thank you. We love and adore you. Of course, Mama Boot Camp.
All right, everyone. I'll put the link to join us. Like I said, we've applied for 14 CEs. Prices do go up January 1st. So grab your seat now. We do have 2 boot camp houses again this year, which it's like a huge slumber party and tons of fun. The other thing that I've added is on Wednesday, before the boot camp gets started, there's a mixer. It's for free at the boot camp house, and it's bringing those who are looking for an associate or independent contractor or preceptor position. You can meet a bunch of doctors. If you're someone who's looking for a preceptor or an independent contractor or an associate, come and meet. And it's it's nothing like, we're not going to do speed dating or any of that. I will be asking questions to help facilitate you guys getting to know one another for the perfect fit. So that is free, and that's available on the Wednesday before. So that's the 23rd of February at the boot camp house. So love and appreciate you. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.